Marcelo Garcia, arguably one of the GOATs of Jiu-Jitsu, was a smaller guy, but that didn't stop him from whooping much bigger opponents. But how did he do it? He mastered a guard game that relied on things like leverage, timing, and technique instead of depending on size. In today's video, we're going to break down the best guard strategies for smaller jiu-jitsu athletes so you can handle bigger opponents just like Marcelo did. First, let's break down why being smaller than your opponent can be a disadvantage. When we talk about someone being bigger, what we're really talking about is two key factors: size and strength. When facing a bigger opponent, we want to rely on things like leverage, timing, and technique. This will help neutralize the opponent's size and strength. For instance, larger opponents can use their weight and power to bulldoze through your guard or even muscle their way out of traditional escapes and submissions. Also, when you're smaller, certain guards or moves may be less effective. For example, the closed guard. It can be difficult to maintain if you have shorter legs. On top of that, there's always a higher risk of injury when training with larger partners, especially if they can't control their strength. But don't worry, the right guard strategies can make all the difference. For smaller players, open guards are your best friend. Guards like single leg X, the butterfly guard, and X guard allow you to stay mobile and use leverage instead of brute force. Another great option is shin to shin and De La Riva guard, which helps you manipulate your opponent's balance and keep them on the defensive. The key reason these guards are so effective is that they rely on leverage and timing rather than trying to match your opponent's strength. We'll dive into more details with examples shortly. When it comes to sweeps, the same principle applies. It's all about timing and angles, not power. Techniques like the butterfly sweep, shin to shin sweep, and X guard sweeps rely on positioning and leverage, giving smaller players a fighting chance against bigger, stronger opponents. Okay, now we've been talking enough about Marcelo Garcia, so let's break down one of his clips. In this clip, he's going against UFC heavyweight Andrei Arlovski, who weighs about 245 pounds, and keep in mind Marcelo Garcia competed at middleweight, which is 170 pounds. So I want to show how the principles are applied in this situation when you're going against someone bigger, right? So just to recap, the main things we want to focus are on: we don't want to try to match strength for strength. We're going to try to use leverage, timing, or angles, right? And this clip is going to be using an arm drag. And let's ask ourselves a question: why is this effective? Why is achieving an angle on our opponent effective? The reason it is effective is because we're basically preventing them from being able to use their full strength against us, right? So let's watch this clip slowly. Here we see he got an angle, right? And now Andre is not able to use his physical size and strength against Marcelo. This is why it makes it so effective. Okay, now let's look at a different clip. So here we have a different clip. Let's check it out. Okay, single leg X. So let's see, why is the single leg X such an effective strategy against someone who's bigger, right? So let's break it down for a second. If we look, what are we doing when we have the single leg X? We have our whole body against one of our opponent's limbs. It doesn't get more leveragey than this. This is like the pinnacle of being able to use leverage, when you have your whole body against one person's limbs. In terms of being able to use leverage against someone, there is no more leverage than that. And apart from that, he's underneath his opponent. So his opponent is not able to fully impose his physical strength and size, right? And then he just gets a nice sweep. Let's take a look at another clip. Okay, so in this clip, we're going to see again, he goes for the arm drag. So here, he's playing around, and he quickly gets an angle. You see? He's angled to his opponent. They're no longer facing to each other. Again, Andre isn't able to use his full strength against Marcelo in this situation, which enables him to easily take him down. Okay, so now let's look at a different clip. In this clip, he's going against UFC heavyweight Rico Rodriguez. Keep in mind that Marcelo Garcia competes in middleweight. So here, I want to show you guys a different clip. This will be another one of getting the angle on your opponent. There is no better angle than when you're on your opponent's back, right? And this goes back to the same principle. Not letting your opponent impose their physical strength on you. Here, it is physically impossible for him to impose any of his strength on Marcelo because Marcelo is on his back. Unfortunately, he gets slammed up, but that's besides the point. Let's look at another clip here. Okay, so here we have another clip. Marcelo Garcia again versus Roberto Cyborg. And this is in the open weight class division. Here, Roberto is a heavyweight, I believe, while Marcelo is significantly smaller than him. So here, let's take a look at what's going on. So he's in the single leg X position, right? And basically, what makes this so effective against bigger opponents is that he's directly underneath his center of gravity. Roberto here is in a very compromised position because of that. Roberto being obviously the one that's on top, Marcelo being the one that's on the bottom. And let's see how he effortlessly sweeps him. You see, this is not something that he's trying to physically impose on him or trying to outmuscle him. He has the advantage at this point. He has more leverage than his opponent. Effortlessly sweeps him. Alright, so here we have Bruno Malfacine versus this guy named Gaizen Za. Gaizen Za usually competes in the super heavyweight division, while Bruno competes in the rooster weight division, if I'm not mistaken, which is approximately 135 pounds. So obviously there's quite of a difference here, but I want to show you guys this clip. And let's see what it's about. Okay, something to notice here. There's going to be a common denominator with all these clips, and right now he's in shin to shin. Within all these clips, the smaller person is always trying to be in a position where they're underneath the center of gravity of the larger opponent, right? And this, like I mentioned previously before, is crucial to taking away their strength and power. Okay, now let's play from here. So he's shin to shin once again. Keep in mind, this big guy is a 3-time world champion, by the way. Now he's in single leg X. Then he transfers it to X guard. He's trying to go to X guard, and he successfully sweeps him over and manages to get on top. Okay, so in this match we have Kanye Duarte, who usually competes in the 208-pound division, against a much smaller opponent, Lucas Lepri, who usually competes in the 168-pound division. So let's see how he handles a much bigger opponent, and just take into account how the same principles come into play every single time. Okay, so here's a clip. So right now he's shin to shin with him, and take into account how he's trying to get into an advantageous position. He's not trying to compete with him head on. He's not trying to stand to him face to face. He's trying to get underneath him, affecting his balance. And he's trying to go for the single leg. And he's not quite successful, so he backs away. And then he restarts. Here we'll see another clip, and take into account how he's trying to keep Kanye's weight away from him, because him being the bigger opponent, his weight is going to be an advantage for him. So he's trying to keep it off of him. And he successfully manages to sweep him.